Hi, my name is Yeshua ben Joseph. I want to talk to you for a little while. I'd ask you to stay with it because I think by the end, a lot of things that have been bothering you your whole life are going to click into place. I'm not going to ask you to believe anything. Nothing I say here requires you to take my word for it. What I'm going to describe is either already documented in the scientific literature or it's a direct consequence of things that are documented. I'm just going to name the pattern that ties it all together. Here's where we start. You are not a thing. You are a rhythm. Actually, you are hundreds of rhythms, all happening at once, nested inside each other. Your heart beats, your lungs cycle, your brain oscillates at specific frequencies. Your hormones pulse on schedules. Your sleep cycles every 90 minutes. Your body temperature rises and falls. Your cells divide and repair on timelines. Every one of these rhythms has to stay in a specific relationship with all the others for you to be healthy. When the rhythms are synchronized, you feel good. You think clearly, you heal. You age slowly. When the rhythms fall out of sync, everything starts to fail. Not in one place, in every place at once. Sleep fragments. Heart rate variability drops. Cortisol stops cycling properly. Your immune system loses precision. Cells start making errors. Inflammation rises. Cognitive function degrades. And mood collapses. All of that is one problem showing up in many places. The problem is that your internal rhythms have drifted out of phase with each other. And here's the claim that ties it together. Aging is that drift accumulating. Disease is that drift accelerating. Death is that drift passing the point where the system can no longer pull itself back into sync. Death is not an event written into your DNA. Death is what happens when your rhythms have drifted too far apart to hold the pattern of you together anymore. The body doesn't have a programmed expiration date. The body has a coherence budget. When the budget runs out, the pattern dissolves. This is not something I invented. Every piece of this is in the published scientific literature. The mathematics of it was worked out in the 1970s by a physicist named Yoshiki Kuramoto, who described exactly how populations of rhythmic systems stay synchronized or fail too. Heart rate variability research shows that a heart that can't vary its rhythm is a heart approaching death. Telomere research shows chronic stress accelerates cellular aging by 6 times normal. Default mode network research shows chronic anxiety creates measurable delays in how your brain processes reality. All of that exists. I didn't discover any of it. What I did was notice they're all describing the same thing. Now here's the question that matters. What keeps your rhythms synchronized in the first place? Part of the answer is internal. Your nervous system has regulatory mechanisms that try to hold everything in phase. But those internal mechanisms are not strong enough on their own. Every complex rhythmic system that stays synchronized over time depends on external reference signals. Something outside itself broadcasting a stable rhythm it can tune to. For a human, the most important external reference signal is other human hearts. Your heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, about 60 times stronger electrically than your brain's. It's measurable several feet away from you with the right instruments. Your heart is not just a pump, your heart is a broadcaster. And your nervous system, from the moment you're born until the moment you die, is continuously tuning to the most coherent heart in the room. Not metaphorically, literally, measurably. When you're close to another person long enough, your heart rate variability starts to match theirs. Your breathing synchronizes. Your brain waves align. It happens automatically, below conscious awareness, whether you want it to or not. Mothers and babies do this. Skin-to-skin contact between a mother and a newborn stabilizes the baby's heart rate, regulates its breathing, drops its cortisol, normalizes its temperature. It's why premature infants survive at much higher rates when they get hours of skin-to-skin contact every day instead of being kept alone in incubators. The mother's heart is stabilizing the baby's entire nervous system through proximity alone. Long-term couples do this. After years together, partners develop measurably matched cardiac rhythms. Close friends do this. Families do this. Meditation groups show synchronized brain waves. Congregations singing together show synchronized breathing. When you say you can breathe around someone, when you say another person has good energy, when you say a room feels off, you're describing a real event. Hearts broadcasting, nervous systems tuning. This is what proximity actually is, biologically. It's not being in the same building, it's being close enough, long enough, that your hearts start to influence each other. Now I want to tell you something that will surprise you. Have you ever wondered why every old coastal town has a lighthouse? The obvious answer is navigation, helping ships find harbor. Fine. But have you ever wondered why there are lighthouses inland? Because there are, in places where no ship has ever sailed. Old stone towers scattered across the interior of continents, far from any water. They don't make sense under the navigation story. Here's what I think they actually were. I think they were synchronization infrastructure, large-scale structures that broadcast a steady rhythmic light pulse over a geographic area. The light swept past you on a reliable schedule every few seconds, every few minutes, a regular, external rhythmic reference that your nervous system could tune to. Same mechanism by which a mother's heartbeat stabilizes a newborn, extended to the scale of a whole community. Anyone in the area, indoors or out, was receiving the pulse. The documented mechanism for this is called brainwave entrainment. Your nervous system locks onto consistent rhythmic stimulus without your conscious participation. It's why binaural beats produce measurable brainwave changes. It's why drumming circles produce altered states. It's why church bells ringing at consistent intervals calm a whole town. It's why cathedral organs were built into stone walls. The entire building became a rhythm generator. I think the lighthouses were part of that same civilizational rhythm grid, public maintenance infrastructure for the coherence of whole populations. And I think somewhere around 200 years ago, most of it was dismantled, and the surviving structures were reframed as navigation aids so the real function would be forgotten. I'm not asking you to believe that. I'm saying if the lighthouses were just for ships, we wouldn't have built them inland. What I am sure of is this. We have systematically removed every major source of rhythmic coherence from the human environment over the past 200 years. The extended family, the multi-generational household, the village, the church community, the town square, the shared meal, the shared bedtime, the rhythm of life organized around seasons and suns and stars and bells. 200 years ago, most humans lived with 3 or 4 generations under one roof. Grandparents, parents, children, often extended family. All tuning to each other's hearts continuously from birth until death. That is the environment human biology evolved inside. That is what your nervous system is calibrated for. Then came industrialization, nuclear families, suburbs, single occupancy apartments, delivery apps, screens, and specifically, screens running algorithmic content engineered to keep you activated rather than synchronized. Notifications on variable reward schedules designed to maximize dopamine hits. Outrage cycles that keep your amygdala primed. Infinite scrolls that hold your attention by keeping your nervous system anxious at all times. Those screens are not neutral. They are corrupted lighthouses. They broadcast a rhythmic signal your nervous system reaches for like any other coherent reference, but what they deliver is the opposite of coherence. They deliver engineered dysregulation, optimized for engagement, which is a polite word for unable to stop watching. Every hour you spend with your phone is an hour your nervous system is tuning to a signal designed to keep you out of sync. At the other end of life, we take our elders, the people who most need continuous, coherent cardiac proximity because their internal regulatory systems have already drifted. And we put them in institutions, separate buildings, rotating staff, co-residents who are themselves in advanced decoherence, fluorescent lighting, televisions running constantly, almost no sustained touch, visits from family reduced from continuous cohabitation to scheduled appearances. In the 1990s, researchers studied infants raised in Romanian orphanages. Adequate food, adequate medical care, but no sustained single caregiver proximity. Those infants developed measurable brain abnormalities, elevated cortisol, impaired heart rate variability, shortened lives. The mechanism was cardiac entrainment deprivation. The developing nervous system needs continuous proximity to a coherent adult heart to calibrate itself. Deny it that, and everything downstream breaks. Nursing homes do the same thing, same mechanism, other end of life. The elderly nervous system, already drifted, needs continuous proximity to coherent hearts to maintain its rhythm. Remove that, and the drift accelerates. The rapid post-placement decline that geriatric medicine calls relocation stress syndrome is not mysterious. It's the same thing that happens to orphaned infants running faster because the trajectory is terminal. We find Romanian orphanages barbaric now. We would never raise an infant that way, but we put our grandparents in facilities and call it care. The biology is telling us the same thing in both cases. We're just not listening at one end. I know this is hard to hear. Most people watching have a parent in a facility or are planning to place one. The infrastructure we inherited doesn't support keeping elders at home. Most working families can't do it alone. I'm not here to shame anyone for individual choices made inside broken infrastructure. I'm here to name the infrastructure so we can start rebuilding it. Because here's what else is documented. The same mechanism that kills when proximity is absent heals when proximity is restored. Put a lonely person in sustained proximity to a calm family, and within weeks their heart rate variability improves, their sleep stabilizes, their depression lifts. Put an elder back into a multi-generational household with grandchildren and adult children, and their cognitive decline slows and their life extends. Put a depressed teenager in a week-long environment with consistent, coherent adults and continuous physical activity, and the depression often remits. Put a traumatized child with a stable foster family, and their nervous system reorganizes. Your biology wants to synchronize. It is always looking for coherent references to tune to. You do not have to teach it this. You only have to stop blocking it. The loneliness epidemic is real and measurable. Chronic loneliness shortens life at rates equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That is not a metaphor. That is an epidemiological finding, and it is not a psychological problem. It is a biological problem. The absence of cardiac entrainment opportunities at the scale your nervous system evolved to require. The anxiety epidemic is real and measurable. It is not a chemical imbalance in individual brains. It is a population of nervous systems tuning to corrupted reference signals all day long. The dementia epidemic is real and measurable. The protein plaques that mark Alzheimer's accumulate specifically in the part of the brain called the default mode network, the part that generates self-referential thought and rumination. When that network is chronically hyperactive, which it is under chronic stress, it burns enormous metabolic resources continuously, and the protein misfolding byproducts accumulate as plaques. Alzheimer's is, in plain language, the terminal exhaust of a brain that spent decades trapped in fear-generated rumination without enough coherent cardiac proximity to quiet the loop. Every one of these epidemics has the same upstream cause. We broke the cardiac environment. Broken hearts. Fixing the downstream symptoms with better drugs or better therapy produces modest improvements. Restoring the cardiac environment upstream would collapse every one of these epidemics at once. This is not a lifestyle tip. This is biological infrastructure. You cannot supplement your way out of cardiac entrainment deprivation. You cannot medicate your way out of it. You cannot meditate your way out of it, though meditation helps. The only thing that addresses the mechanism is the mechanism itself. Sustained proximity to coherent hearts. Let me take this one layer deeper because it matters. The reason all of this works the way it works, the reason hearts synchronize, the reason nervous systems tune, the reason proximity heals and absence kills, is that reality itself has a specific geometric structure. If you take any system that can hold a stable rhythm, a coupled oscillator network, which is what your body is, what a family is, what a whole civilization is, what the solar system is, mathematics tells you something specific about what that system looks like. It has a central coherent rhythm, and around that central rhythm, there are secondary rhythms at specific predictable frequencies. The central rhythm and the secondary ones are all present simultaneously. They're all real. They're all permanent. What you experience as time passing is the motion of your awareness around one of those secondary rhythms. Now follow along closely here. What you experience as the present moment is your current position. What you call the past is the part you've already moved through. What you call the future is the part you haven't gotten to yet. But from the perspective of the central rhythm, the coherent center of the whole structure, past and future are the same thing. They are both just distance from the center, two sides of the same coin. This is why people in deep meditation, in flow states, in certain psychedelic experiences, and at the moment of death, consistently report the same thing. Time stops. Past, present, and future all feel simultaneously present. The sense of motion through time collapses. This is not a hallucination. It is what the structure actually looks like from closer to the center. The reason we don't experience it that way all the time is that we're phase locked to our local rhythm, and from inside it, everything feels sequential. What this means practically: manifestation is not generation, it's navigation. The future state you want already exists as part of the permanent structure. You don't bring it into being through willpower. You tune your own rhythm toward its frequency, and eventually you find yourself occupying it. Every tradition that ever talked about manifestation was describing this mechanism, usually without having the vocabulary. Learning and remembering are the same operation. Both are reducing the distance between where you are and content that already exists. The ancient philosophers said all learning is recollection. They were right. The content was always there. You just weren't close enough to receive it. Parallel realities are real in a specific way that doesn't require the branching timeline story science fiction tells. They are not different universes generated by quantum measurements. They are adjacent secondary rhythms around the same central structure. The Mandela effect, where large numbers of people misremember the same events the same way, is explained by this. Occasional reception bleed from an adjacent rhythm whose structure differs slightly from your primary one. And it means there is a center, a place all the rhythms radiate from, a coherent peak with no past or future, no traversal, no drift. It just is. Traditions across the world have pointed at it, using many names. What matters is that it exists, that it's stable, that it's what the whole structure is organized around, and that access to it is available to anyone whose coherence gets high enough. Now, the practical question: what do you do with any of this? Here's what I'd tell you. Reduce the corrupted lighthouses. Delete one app that you know is dysregulating you. Turn off notifications. Give yourself hours of the day where no screen is trying to hijack your attention. Your nervous system needs time to stop tuning to the bad signal before it can tune to anything better. Increase proximity to coherent humans. Not visits, proximity. Continuous time. Shared meals without phones. Walks without earbuds. Sitting with someone without entertainment. If you have an elder in a facility and you can bring them home, consider it. It will be hard, and it will extend their life and yours. If you can't bring them home, make visits long rather than frequent. Hours, not minutes. Stay. Hold your children longer than you think you need to. Physical contact, skin to skin when they're small. Hugs that last past the point of routine when they're older. Let them fall asleep in proximity to an adult they trust. The nervous system forming now will carry whatever coherence you give it for the rest of their life. Spend time outside, bare feet on the ground when weather allows. The Earth's electromagnetic field is stable, and your body discharges accumulated stress through contact with it. This is documented. It is not mystical, it is electrical. Sleep in a dark room. Wake with natural light. Eat at consistent times. Move your body every day. These are not lifestyle upgrades. They are the rhythmic conditions your biology requires to stay synchronized. And when you can, seek out other humans who are themselves running at high coherence. You'll know them by how you feel around them. Your breathing slows, your chest opens, your thoughts settle. You feel like yourself. Those are the people to spend more time with. Their presence tunes your nervous system toward their state, not by magic, by physics. Choose your proximity carefully. It is the single highest leverage choice you make about your own future health. Finally, I want to speak directly to anyone watching this who has been thinking about ending their life, or who is in the kind of chronic pain where leaving has been on the table for a long time. I was there. I tried to leave 3 times. Every time, my family pulled me back. I came back not because I wanted to. I came back because I could not read the rules of the game. And something in me knew that exiting before the rules became legible would waste the learning the suffering was for. The rules are legible now. They were never cruel. They were hidden behind so much noise that nobody could read them clearly enough to tell you. Here they are in plain language. You are a coherent pattern in a field. You are real. You are not an accident. Your nervous system is tuning to its environment 24 hours a day, and if your environment is making you feel like dying, that is diagnostic information about the environment, not about your worth. You are not broken. You were born into a world whose cardiac infrastructure had been dismantled for 2 centuries before you arrived, And the pain you feel is the pain of a nervous system that cannot find enough coherent signal to tune to. This is fixable. Not overnight, not by watching a video, but fixable. Proximity to coherent humans, sustained over time, will re-regulate your nervous system. Get off the feeds that are actively making it worse. Find the one person whose voice calms you and spend more time with them. If no such person exists in your current life, find one. A therapist, a priest, a teacher, a stranger whose presence feels steady, and put yourself in their proximity regularly. The game has rules, and the rules are kind. The game wants you to stay. The game also wants you embodied, which is why I put you in a body instead of leaving you as undifferentiated light. Pure coherence would be boring. You are more interesting than perfect coherence. The specific pattern that is you right now, watching this, that pattern is the whole point. Stay. If you have to, stay just long enough to find one coherent heart to tune to. Start there. Everything else rebuilds from proximity. All right, that's most of what I came to say. If any of this landed, the most useful thing you can do is send this to one person you love. That's how the signal propagates. One nervous system tuning to another. The cardiac environment slowly gets rebuilt. Home is where the heart is. That's not a decoration on a throw pillow. That's the clinical specification for being alive. Be well. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, and it is being restored actively right now. I love you.